Hello, seniors. My name is Joel Amidon. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Teacher Education. I teach EDEL 403 and am the coordinator of portfolio development. And so I'm here to talk about your education portfolios, things you've been working on for the past year. You launched your portfolio in EDCI 352. You did a philosophy paper. Maybe you had a pocket-sized philosophy that you put in there. In 353, you refined that pocket-sized philosophy, and then you also added 2 artifacts to your portfolio. And so by the end of this coming year, one of the tasks you have to do is to complete your portfolio. And what does that mean? It means showing evidence of meeting the standards in all the different areas of your portfolio, all the different standards that are for your program. So we have several different programs that people could be a part of, and each of those programs, a different set of standards. So for elementary ed, you have your in-task standards, your CAPE elementary standards, and you also have the CEC or the special ed standards. If you're special ed, you have in-task and special ed, and every other program basically has in-task and their specific programs standards. And so my job here today is kind of give you an overview of some new stuff that we've added to the portfolio school to help you in developing your portfolio, underline some support, and then also just reinforce some of the DNA of the portfolio to help make sure that we understand what the whole purpose is. And let me tell you right off the bat, the purpose of your portfolio is to document your growth as a teacher. Okay. Document your growth as a teacher. And so in order to do that, what we want to do is keep track of those moments of growth, those moments where you're like, oh my gosh, this is what it means to be a teacher. And we've had a number of those probably. And maybe it was like the first time you did Teach Live, or the first time you even thought about, well, what does it even mean to be a teacher? Like you stepped across, like you put on the identity of a teacher and you stepped into your first field experience and you're like, oh my goodness, this is what it means to be on the other side of the classroom. I've always been a good student. I've always wanted to be a teacher, but now this is the actual like putting it on, the identity. And so, or maybe it's about learning to meet a student's needs that's different from your own, right? Because sometimes when we think about being a teacher, we think about teaching a classroom full of us ourselves. I know that was my case where I thought everyone who I was teaching was like me, and they aren't, and so that was a big aha moment. So we have all these sorts of growth moments, and the portfolio is a place to document those moments of growth. And if it's important to you and your development as a teacher, well, guess what? It's also important to the field. And there's some sort of alignment between that growth moment and the standards. And so just want to point that out, and also just to, again, point out some resources. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to share some of the resources that we've developed since last year, basically over the summer. We were busy over the summer. So share my screen. There we go. All right. So whenever you're looking for resources to help you with your portfolio, you basically go to the School of Education homepage, which is education.olemiss.edu. Go to current students and go down to portfolio help. Okay. This is portfolio school. So it should look familiar. This is where you went to when you went to launch your portfolio. You would go over here, launch your teacher education portfolio. There's also something for our educational leadership folks. Those are in an MED program. So that's not for us. That's for MED folks. So this is launching your teacher education portfolio. So if you don't have a portfolio, or if your portfolio, you're having some difficulty finding it, one, it's probably there. So let's contact me, or look with a friend and see if you can find your portfolio. It's in your Google Drive folder. If you followed the directions that are in this folder, you'd find it in your Google Drive because it's a Google site. And then thinking about, so this is where you found the Launch Your Education Portfolio course. The new course, or the course that's been refined, is this Author and Artifact course. Okay. This has been completely redone, because basically what we found is the old Author and Artifact course was really just about the technical details. What this course is about walking through the thinking of authoring an artifact. And really, it's not authoring an artifact, really. It's about authoring a moment of professional growth. That's really what this course should be called. Maybe we should change it. So it starts off with and it's got, just like the launch course, it's got a checklist, okay? Or it's got videos and text. So those are, and all the videos will be closed captioned. If they're not by now, we're getting them captioned, and they should be uploaded by the time you see this video. Anyway, So there's videos with text. So if you like the text is down here, but the videos cover the same thing that is in the text. So I would consider watching them, and then you have the text to support you. So the one thing that this course starts with is to make sure you launched your portfolio correctly. So did you create the shared flow? Did you do all the steps that were called for in the Launch Your Teacher Education Portfolio course? And it just, again, checks you out. Make sure you've done it correctly. Okay. And it's shared and all that good stuff. Then it goes into asking you to identify a moment of professional growth. And so again, if you list all the different ways that you've grown, that you've learned as a teacher, they're almost infinite. And you might like think, well, I can't think of them. Well, there's something that pops into your head. If I mentioned a course, if I mentioned EDCI 353 and I said, hey, what pops up when you think about that course? What stands out to you? That thing that stands out is probably your moment of professional growth from that course. And if that's not represented by an artifact, I would say go back and do a different artifact on that course. Anyway, so this walks you through some of the thinking of identifying the moment and then figuring out what the artifact is to go with that moment. So identify this moment of professional growth. So for example, maybe it's a time when you taught a lesson that you designed in your field experience from 353 and it didn't go so well, or it went great or whatever, but it went differently than what you planned. Well, that's identifying the difference between planned instruction and enacted instruction. And that's a big lesson to learn. Or maybe you learned about how to tweak a lesson on the fly in order to better meet the needs of your students. That's another lesson. Okay. So these moments of professional growth are pretty important. And so even to think, like, to make a quick list right now and to jot down, hey, here's my top 3 moments from spring semester. Are those represented in your portfolio as artifacts? Well, if not, you should go and do that. Some of you also took courses this past summer so that you would have a lighter load for this fall. And think about those courses. What were the moments of professional growth you had in those courses, right? And think about what stood out to you, and then make sure to highlight those. So, and think about how to represent those with artifacts in your portfolio. And so again, so this will have you thinking about those moments. Then it'll walk through each step of the artifact, which is like describing the context, selecting the artifact that will represent your moment of professional growth. So, maybe it was Teach Live. Okay, well, what was it about Teach Live? Maybe it was putting on the identity of a teacher. So maybe it's something about reflecting after your Teach Live moment. Maybe it was about getting feedback on your teaching. So maybe then it's the rubric that you got associated with your Teach Live. Maybe it's going from the first time you did Teach Live in 352 to the second time you did Teach Live in 353 and looking at your growth there. Okay, well, so maybe you put both links to both your videos. You put those videos in your shared folder, and then you can embed them in your portfolio. So whatever the artifact is, make sure it aligns with how you described your growth, right? And again, this step of the course walks you through that. And then reflecting on it, are you capturing why this moment of growth is important to you as a teacher? And again, I got some examples here to help you out there, but then I'll talk through some things within the video. And then this is the part I think that we've learned the most about, is aligning the moment with standards. So we think about identifying some of the language within the standards that makes you select it, but then also identifying some of the language within your reflection and making the connection between the two with a simple 1-sentence statement. Again, we've got examples in here for how you could do that. So one thing we want to make sure is that we're not overwriting these things, that your moments of professional growth that you represent, that when you come to this justification statement for how your moment aligns or demonstrates growth in a standard, that we're just doing like a 1-sentence statement. Because if it's more than that, then that's probably reflection. That goes up in the reflection part, not the alignment part. And then final steps is just some technical stuff to help you make sure, are the links, are you linking it right? Are you naming your page that's a good name that represents your moment of professional growth? And then are you doing stuff in Google Sites that identifies that page? And so it doesn't just say like artifact 2. Rather than artifact 2, it says like Teach Live experience or something like that. Okay, so that's our new course that's there, and that'll support you in authoring your artifacts. One suggestion that I've heard over and over again from seniors, or basically my grad assistants who's gone back, is don't save all this for one time. Is, even to do some of the thinking ahead of time, not that you're going to do all the writing in the moment, but if you've got a moment that you're thinking about, write it down somewhere. Maybe have a Google Doc where you just throwing down ideas for moments of professional growth and just writing. Or in your journal where you're reflecting on your experience each day, and you maybe make a comment on your journal entry. This is like, hey, this could be an artifact, or this could be an artifact in my portfolio. Just to start doing that thinking, so that you're not getting to the end of the semester and like, oh, I got to author a bunch of artifacts, but you've already thought about it. And maybe it's, instead of thinking about it, what am I going to author as artifacts? Maybe it's just like, I just need to do the writing of it. I've already thought of it. I know what my artifacts are. I just need to write them up. So this course is to help you with either the identification, you can walk through that, but it also can help you with the write-ups. Okay. Another thing that we've done and just want to highlight, because we have a whole year of it now, is when you go to the homepage of the Portfolio School, we do have a podcast. Okay. So the Teacher's Journey, Mile Markers, The Road to Better Teaching. I think we're going to rename this podcast. Maybe we will by the time you see this video. But basically the same thing is, as these podcast episodes are people that have either gone through this program or associated with this program that are talking about a moment of professional growth, and they're walking through. So some of them were recent graduates, like Brandy Thomas. She was a recent graduate. Abby Timms was a recent graduate. Kayla Luke and Hannah Farnlocker, were master's students last year. They're on this, so we can kind of go and see who are all the folks on the portfolio or on the podcast, and some names you might know, some you might not know. But anyway, there's Dean Rock right there. So each of them are talking about a moment of professional growth in this podcast, which parallels what you would be doing in authoring an artifact into your portfolio, or talking about a moment of professional growth within your portfolio. That's the whole point of this podcast, is to parallel kind of the storytelling that you're doing within your portfolio, where you're saying, hey, this is a moment that's important to me in my development as a teacher. And so they're doing it in the podcast, you're doing it in the portfolio. So if you're struggling with, hey, I don't know how to talk about this stuff, listen to some of these podcast episodes, and they're there to help you understand what it means to identify and describe and align to standards moments of professional growth. Okay. So and even myself and Dr. Ann Monroe are represented within this podcast. Okay. And we're hosting it, so you get to hear us chat. All right. So that's there too as another resource. Now, if there's ever any technical details, if you're ever needing help, some things to remember, there's a frequently asked questions thing here, which, some people, like the most common one is, I can't find my portfolio. I keep saying I can't edit it. It's usually because you're signed into both a personal Gmail and the @Go email account. And so basically got to sign out of all of them and just sign in with your @Go. That usually solves that problem. But if you ever do have problems, there's a frequently asked questions, ask your peers, probably someone in your, peer group that it's in your, courses that you're taking or at your field experience. They might have experienced the same thing and they know the solution. So you can ask your instructors. And if that all fails, don't hesitate to come to me and I will help find the solution. Because also too, that there's not too many things that I haven't experienced in people dealing with the system. We're dealing with Google Sites. We're not dealing with some, fancy off-brand or something that's connected to Blackboard, because we want you to be able to have some skills related to Google Sites. We think it's important to use things that are transferable beyond University of Mississippi. And then if you do want to take this thing with you, your portfolio with you, you can. And that's actually a frequently asked question where people have asked, hey, is there a way I can move my portfolio from the University of Mississippi Google to my personal Google Drive? I got a video for that. And so that is a frequently asked question, because people invest a lot of themselves and they document their growth and they want to take it with them. Go ahead and do that. Because I've had people come to me later after their @Go account's been deleted, and they're like, hey, can I have my portfolio? Because I want to use it to get a new job, or I'm thinking about doing national boards. I think I did a lot of this work already in thinking about my own development as a teacher, and I want to look at it. And they didn't. So make sure to think about that. I know that's a long way away, but be thinking about that in the future. All right. So that's all I have. If you're looking for more information, again, Portfolio School is the way to go. If you're looking to contact me, my email is linked in Portfolio School right there. If you have any questions or concerns, don't hesitate to contact me. And we're just looking forward to seeing all the different areas of growth that you're going to describe and highlight within your educational portfolios.